In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a basic mold for a piece of rectangular concrete. I'm going to show you the tools that you require and also the materials that you require. The tools and the methods that I'm going to show you are exactly the same as those that we use day in and day out here at Concrete Lab. Hi, I'm Toby and this is Concrete Lab, where we share our knowledge and expertise to help you create your own amazing polished concrete. Now, if you've ever made anything, and I mean literally anything, whether it be building a house or baking a cake, you will know that prep is key. And also, if you have undertaken a project and you haven't done any prep, then you know that you are actually inviting a fail from the outset. So in this video, I'm going to cover the basics when it comes to building a very simple rectangular mold, whether that be for a tabletop, a worktop, or any flat concrete surface. Everything that I discuss in this video will be in the description below, so you don't have to write anything down. Just like it, bookmark it, whatever. And whilst you're there, subscribe to our channel. And if you've got any questions that come up throughout the video, then pop them in the comments section below. So I'll start with the tools that you're going to need to build your basic mold. You're going to need a straight edge of some description. Now I'm going to use an aluminium straight edge, which we have here in our workshop, and they're very handy, but that's not to say you couldn't use a straight piece of timber. Just make sure that you look down it and make sure that it is completely straight. And another tip would be to pop it on a surface like this and just make sure it doesn't rock. If it does rock, then it's not straight. So straight edge. You're going to need a glue gun and glue sticks. You're also going to need a variety of squares, a small square and also a large square. They're both very useful. You're going to need something to measure with. Now, this is a steel ruler. You don't have to use a steel ruler. It's just something that we've got here. And a tape measure is obviously very handy as well. To go with that, you're going to need something to mark your measurements down with. So a pencil, obviously. And you're going to need a silicone gun and silicone to go with that as well. Then finally, you will need a silicone tool. I will show you how to use this later, where you wipe it along the line of silicone and it takes the excess off. And alongside that, you will need kitchen towel to mop up that excess silicone. So next, let's move on to the materials. Now, fundamentally, you're going to need a surface to cast your concrete onto. Now, here at Concrete Lab, we have casting tables that we use over and over again. These are plastic covered, but you don't have to go to that expense. You can use something like melamine. They come in large format sheets. They're not particularly expensive. And for one-off, two-off projects, then that is your ideal choice. So with the melamine, you can lay it on top of a workbench. You could put it on the floor, or you could put it on trestles to make it easier for you to pour the concrete into. Just bear in mind, whatever you put the melamine onto, it needs to be perfectly flat and it needs to be level. Because when you pour the concrete into it, if it's only supported on trestles, for example, at one side, the middle, and the end, the concrete might make the melamine just dip slightly. I'm not talking about a lot, but just a couple of millimeters, and that will show up in your final piece of concrete work. So moving on to the sides of the mold, I'm going to recommend again that you use something like melamine. It's not expensive. It cuts very easily with a circular saw. If you don't have a circular saw and you don't have any way of cutting it yourself, large DIY outlets do generally have some form of cutting service. So if you make a cutting list for them, they will do, I think, up to 5 cuts free of charge. Well, something like this won't have too many cuts, so there would only be a small charge, if any. So I would use melamine for the edges of the mold, and we have also cut small blocks as well. We're going to use these to attach the sides of the mould to the casting surface. So I'd recommend that you use melamine for these as well, just for consistency. So let's start building the mould. So I'm going to start with one of the long sides, and I'm going to take my straight edge, just pop it up against the mould side, take my glue gun, which has been plugged in for a couple of minutes, glue two sides of the glue block and push and glue that up against the melamine edge. So make sure that this side is going to be straight. I'm just going to pop another block at the other end. And now I know that that section there is straight. I'm going to put the glue blocks, or I'm going to glue the glue blocks down every 100 to 150 millimeters centers. What I'm also going to do as I glue them down is just hold that side of the straight edge and push on the other side with the glue block, just to make sure that this piece is perfectly straight. Now, if at any time you're worried about whether you're keeping your edge straight, just use your eyes. Just take a look down the line and you'll be able to see if the edge is deviating off in any direction. So that's the one side done. I'm going to remove the straight edge now because I don't need it for the next bit just yet. What I am going to do is use my large square. Now I know this is straight here. Now, as long as I am pushing up against the edge of the square, then I know that is square there as well. So I'm going to use the large square to line up the side, and I'm going to use this square here to make sure when I'm gluing down that that side is standing vertically. So I'm going to push the small square down, and I'm going to clamp the side of the mould between the glue block and the square edge. Now that I've glued that one bit down, I'm going to go right to the very end here and make sure that the side is in line with the square. And that way, now that that is glued down, I'm confident that as long as I'm up against this edge, then this piece is going to be straight. Again, approximately 100 to 150 millimeter centers for each of the blocks, or 10 centimeters and 15 centimeters. And that's the second side of the mold done. We'll do exactly the same on this end. Plop it against the front of the mold, or the first piece of the mold. I'm going to make sure that this piece here is completely square. And glue my first block in place, clamping the piece of melamine or melamine between the glue block and the square. And that's the third side on. I've used the square, so I'm confident that both these sides are perpendicular to the front edge. This is where I'm going to use the straight edge. I can push up against the two side pieces. But what I really need to do is get a measurement off the one end and then check in the middle. So that's 900 millimeters there. Push that out slightly. That's now 900 millimeters in the middle. So I can go ahead and glue the final blocks in place. So that is the mould complete. The next thing we need to do is to apply the silicone to the edges. So I'll start with my silicone gun, and I'm going to start in the one corner. I'm going to go up the vertical. I'm not going to put too much in, just a nice thin bead along all the edges. Don't forget to go up the verticals. Go gradually. So that's the silicone applied. I've got my silicone tool and I've got my kitchen towel. And all I'm going to do now is run this in two directions. So start in that corner and just run the tool along the horizontal surface. So that edge is coming along the horizontal surface. And what that is going to do is just make a round and take that excess off the base. And then I'm going to run back with the tool on the vertical edge. It will take off more excess there. Now, it might not come off perfectly straight away. Just keep going until you've got a nice round and all the excess has been removed. And eventually you'll be left with a nice, neat round in the joint between the horizontal and the vertical. So that's the silicone applied, and that is the mould built and ready for the concrete to cast into it. Now, as you can see, it's very simple to do with a small selection of tools. Just make sure that you're prepared, you've got all your materials ready, and you take your time, and you're going to have project success. Okay, see you next time.